We announced today, I think everybody knows, we've got Daniel Rudy Rudiger joining us to kick off 2024. So the real deal, Rudy. Everyone's probably seen the movie. This is the 30-year anniversary. Rudy and I are sponsoring what we are calling the Rudy Scholarships. So we're giving out 2 scholarships to people that epitomize Rudy's determination and resiliency. So applications are going to be available next week, and you can nominate somebody for it, or they can nominate themselves. But it really should be somebody that epitomizes all the things that made Rudy who he is. And we're co-sponsoring these Rudy scholarships. And I will tell you, whoever wins them, they're going to be happy they did. So it's going to be pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to it. Any questions on the Rudy scholarships? Scott Garber, hello, my good friend.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm great.
Good, man. I just saw this on LinkedIn, so I didn't want to miss it. RHO, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man, good to see you. Glad you're here. Honored
Yeah,
you come watch.
All right. I'm going to get things started. RHO, Robert Hamilton Owens, certainly needs no introduction. And if you don't know Robert, you're going to learn a heck of a lot more about him in the next 43 minutes. I would highly encourage anyone who has not read his book, Beyond Average, to grab it. It is an absolutely unbelievable book, and you'll read it and you'll say, there's no way one human being did all that stuff. But you're looking at him live and in the flesh. He's done everything imaginable. And as an outlier, he is not only an active member, there are 10 people in the Outlier Hall of Fame. He was the leading vote getter for that. He's a top advisor for us, and his office hours will start in 2024. He is a legend in residence at our retreat that is coming up next year. And I just cannot say enough amazing things about my friend Robert. You know, one of the things that you won't hear in the documentary is the work that he does as a leadership coach, but also in the personal development space, and also as a management consultant. So if I would encourage anybody who is looking for a personal development coach or a management consultant or a leadership coach, you're not going to find a better person on the planet than Robert Hamilton Owens. And if you are interested in him doing personal coaching with you, you can reach out. Kathy, maybe you could drop his contact information in the chat. You can reach out and do a discovery call with Robert and see if it's a good fit for you guys. So we're here tonight to watch the documentary that chronicles his amazing row across the Atlantic that he did to raise awareness and to raise money for what is really a national epidemic, and that's the crisis of veteran suicide. So he rode across the Atlantic for the Courage Foundation, and we're going to learn a lot more in the next 43 minutes. So after we're done, Robert has graciously agreed to stay on and answer any questions that anybody has, and maybe talk a little bit more about why this is so important. You know, we're also blessed to have, and I hope I don't leave anybody out, Colonel Mike Helton on, Colonel Scott Heathman, Sal, who's a brand new member, who's a Green Beret. So we've got a bunch of military folks on this call. But I know this is going to strike a chord with everybody. So without any further ado, let's watch One Is Too Many. And then we'll get together with Robert afterwards.
We appreciate your time. The goal of the documentary was to break your heart. It was to get you to say, this is terrible, the way it's done to us, where we say, we can't let this go on any longer. Will you please join us? Before you leave today, what we're asking is that you take your phone out and point it to the QR code that's on the screen. And you'd make a donation and partner with us. Whether it's a $10,000 donation, $5,000, $1,000, $500, $100, $1. But you can do something. Don't just walk away and say, this is terrible. Let's make a difference together. We appreciate you watching, and we wish Mark was still here. Thank you.
Yep.
That's okay, Scott.
That's overhead that they've got. There's a couple of those shots that had to be like a,
with a drone.
oh, maybe a drone. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. I've watched it 3 times and whew,
This is where you could talk if you wanted to.
Mhm.
You
that
know.
hits hard every time. Robert, thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you for wanting to show this. And thank you to all of you that are thinking about this differently now. I heard some of you during the film saying, shit, I can't believe it. And it was just hard for me to think that over 700 men and women would kill themselves while I was rowing. And then it gives the statistics on how many have killed themselves compared to dying in combat. And I'll tell you a story. When I was in my CrossFit and I was working out, there was this guy, and he just watched me. He was a sort of a distant, quiet guy. I think he was on his 3rd marriage, and he was a graphic designer. And you know, I'm on my rowing machine. I'd stopped doing most of my major CrossFit stuff. I just was practicing working on my legs. And he came over one morning and looked at me and said, "Hey, are you doing that Atlantic thing?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "Are you doing that for a veteran suicide?" I said, "Yeah, I am." I said, "You know much about it? You know anything about it?" He goes, "Yeah, I know about it." I said, "You want to talk to me about it?" And he just stared at me. He was about 50, I don't know, 54, 55, about 6'2", quiet guy, introverted, kind of quiet. And he said, you know, my dad was Air Force, and my dad was Korean War, and my dad was a fighter pilot. And I stopped rowing, you know, on my machine, which is a nice thing. After a couple hours, you know, take a break. And he goes, and my dad committed suicide. And I said, "I'm really sorry." He just stared at me. And I said, "What was the deal?" He said, when my dad came home from Korea, I was about 5 or so, and he just drank. And he drank a lot, and he beat my mom. And he had anger and rage, and we lived on pins and needles, and he hit me. And he would disappear and then come back after a day or two. And that went on for a couple years, and then he shot himself. And I said, gosh, I'm really sorry. And he just stared at me, you know. And I said, have you ever dealt with your stuff? He goes, nah, probably not. You know, you just move on in life and get married and have kids, and pay bills, and you move on. Life sucks at times. And I said, do you want to process your stuff now? You want to talk? He said, no. But thanks. And I really appreciate you rowing across the Atlantic to raise awareness and funds for veteran suicide. I hope you can help somebody. I said, well, I'm appreciative that you're appreciative. And if there's anything I can ever do for you, or you want to talk, have coffee, let me know. He said, thanks, appreciate it, and walked away. Never said another word. And some of you know that I was a pastor for 25 years. After I got up putting guys in body bags, I went to theology school and I got a theology degree, and I went and planted a church at the University of Nevada, Reno. There's UNLV and UNR, and about 20,000 students. And I became chaplain for football, baseball, basketball, because I wanted to work with kids, and I wanted to work with screwed up kids like I had been in my teens. And so in our town, we had a large homeless population, and that population was living on the streets, winter in the snow, summer. And I'd go down, because I'm the only vet pastor in town, and I'd walk down among the vets and I'd say, hey, what's up? You know, hey, why'd you give up? Why'd you check out? Why are you on the streets? Why don't you get it together? Why don't you talk, process? And they just say, I'm done. And I said, what do you mean done? And they go, we're done. Matter of fact, I moved a guy. I was married 11 months. And there was these, I'm speaking at the Salvation Army one night, and it's snowing outside, it's sleeting, and they can't eat until they hear the guy speak, and I'm the guy speaking. So they're all leaning back with their eyes closed, some snoring, and I'm speaking. Thursday night meal, you know, praying for the meal, and these guys are just out. And this big old guy in the back says, hey, pastor. And I looked at him, you know, like, who's, oh, you? Okay, what's up? And he said, do you love me? And I went, I'm 29. My wife's 22. Rookies at this whole thing, going to save the world, big eyes, want to make a difference. I said, yeah, I love you. Thinking inside, you know, I don't know if you want to say that. And so, of course, everybody sits up then, looks at me, and he says, well, if you really love me, why don't you take me home so I don't have to sleep in the snow tonight? And everyone's awake. And everyone's leaning forward like, what's the guy going to do now? And I said, all right, come home with me. And they went, no way. You know, I went, and they go, take me. I said, no, one of you is enough for tonight. So you ready to eat? Let's eat. Lord bless food, get out of here, bye. And so all you guy eats his turkey or whatever it was, and they says, let's go. So it goes behind a bush downtown and gets his wet bag and puts it in my car, and drive home, open the door, little house by the university, by the fraternity houses. And my young bride says, who's this? And I said, this is John. Hi, John, what are you doing here? John's come to live with us. How long? I don't know. John says, for a long time. So my wife just stares at me like, what in the world are you doing? They stunk. He had 3 layers of clothes on, and, you know, he was homeless. Anyway, moved John on my couch. We had a 2-bedroom place and a couch and an oil furnace, and got John a job. I was broke back then, so I was selling cars, and I sold Isuzus, Porsches, and Volkswagens. So I went to my general manager and said, hey, I got this homeless guy. Got him living with me. I'm trying to work on his sobriety and this and that. Give him a job washing cars. Sure, you know. And so I got John a job. And John went to work with me every day and washed cars and cleaned cars and detailed stuff, and came home at night, ate with my wife, and I slept on the couch. My wife said, how long are you going to do this? I said, I don't know. But I told him I loved him, and I talks cheap, put up or shut up. And so I'm putting up. We're putting up. She goes, we are putting up. I said, yeah, I'm sorry, but we are. Anyway, after about 6 months, John says to me, vet, hey, Robert, you're really a nice guy, good man. I said, well, thank you very much. And he said, will you just let me go back to the streets? And he's got a job, he's got clean clothes, he's got a bath every day, shower, you know, everything's good. He goes, I'm not cut out for this. And what aren't you cut out for? He said, I'm not cut out for being normal like this. I just want to go back to my bushes and my friends. And I said, you want to go back on the streets? He goes, yeah. Why? Just isn't me anymore. I said, so you want to give up? He goes, yeah, I want to give up. And I went, pack your bag. So I took him back downtown, and he had another bag he didn't tell me about that was hidden behind this bush. And I dropped him off. He waved at me and said, thanks, Robert, for all your help. And that's the last time I ever saw John. And he went back to all his friends on the street. And 70% of all the homeless were all Vietnam vets. And it was just one of these things where I'd walk amongst them. And where's Fred? Oh, he already killed himself last week. Or where's so-and-so? He's in the hospital for frostbite. And I'd say to these guys, why are you giving up? And they just look at me like, because I'm cooked. I'm done. I just don't have it in me. And I just woke up, you know, to the thing about veterans. I mean, I'm a vet, pararescue guy, now taking care of people. And these vets are telling me, you know, I'm cooked and this and that. And I thought, wow, you know, this is damaged goods. I mean, they've got some really mental health issues, we would say today. And I said, what am I going to do? And so I began to spend more and more time with veterans. Give you one last story. So I'm doing a leadership conference in New Zealand, and I'm speaking. I go down every year to New Zealand, knock out this thing in Wellington, which is the capital. It's the bottom of the North Island. And at this leadership thing, they invite the city to come and talk. And there's a couple of us speaking, doing seminars and workshops. And there's this old couple. I mean, I'm old, right? This couple is older than me. And he was about 6'2" with white hair. And his wife was about 5'6" with white hair, you know, like some gal who's a Moravian or Quaker or something, with a bun on their head, the big dress, and looked really holy and simple. And they would come year after year. And I'd say, why do you, hi, how are you? You're here again. Why? They go, we like you. I said, what do you like? And they go, we just like listening to you. I said, sweet. You know, what are you doing? And they said, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you guys are what, 80, 81? Yeah, we're 81, 82. And they're holding hands and they're in love. And I think, tell me your story. And they said, we've been married 40 years. So that says, what happens to the first 40? So I say, you want to tell me how you met? And they looked at each other with that sweet little grandma and grandpa romantic look, holding hands. Well, so I said, tell me the deal, you know, short story or long story, I don't care. Just tell me how you're 80 and you're happy. Well, there was this guy living under a bridge. And he lived under the bridge for like 4 years. And every day, she said, I walked downtown to the government office where I was working in the bureau or something. And I'd see this guy with his cardboard stuff living under this bridge. And he didn't bother anybody, didn't say anybody, just stayed right there. And she said, after about 2 or 3 years of walking by this guy, going to work 5 days a week, you know, she looked and said, hello, how are you today? And he replied, good. And so she said, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm just living. So she began to bring him sandwiches and stuff. And then they began to talk. He'd come out from the bridge and stand on the sidewalk and talk to her. He hadn't had a bath in I don't know how long, and had his stuff. And she said he was a nice guy. And so she said, do you want some soap? You want some water, you want this and that, you want a oven, little burner thing for your food. Anyway, they become friends. And lo and behold, she gets him to come out from under the bridge and get some help, and she marries the guy. And I say to him, what was your deal under the bridge? And he said, I couldn't process my stuff. And I couldn't process it. And so I just hid because I was Iwo Jima. And when they released me from the military after Iwo Jima, I had my green fatigues on that were stained dark brown, red, from all the blood that was on my fatigues from hand-to-hand combat for days at Iwo Jima. And they gave me cigarettes, and they gave me $100 or so, whatever it was, and cup of coffee thing. And they said, thank you for your service. And they just dropped him off on the street. And he stood there in his green fatigues. We'd call that PTSD. We'd call that trauma, brain trauma. We call it a lot of things. And he didn't know how to do anything. So he just went and found this bridge and lived under the bridge and scraped by with stuff. I guess he got a stipend from the military that he'd go post office and pick it up and go back to the bridge. And he was this really happy 80-year-old now. And he said, my wife brought me out and gave me a life. And it was, one of those things where I'm just glad she came along and talked to me and helped me process. And I say that to say that is really a challenge because there's so many damaged people that walk around that when you look at them, they don't look damaged. But whether it's a concussion, brain issues, pressure, whether it's what they saw. My guys, Afghanistan, Iraq and stuff, they had to shoot women and they had to shoot children who were wired up with bombs. And they'd say, stop, stop, like in the movie, stop, stop. And the little kids had to walk towards the guy and pull the trigger and self-detonate. So they had to kill women and children. And when they got out of the theater, they just thought, I don't have a slot for this. What do you do? Much less today, guys build their terrorist networks under hospitals. It's women's and children. They're used and stuff happens. And so when I'm talking to veterans today, a lot of them just nod their head, and they don't trust the VA because the VA is attached to Big Pharma. And Big Pharma wants to give them a pill and neutralize them and just have them not think, just stay numb, just stay like John Gordon yesterday, just stay in the game of don't think. And there's too many to process. There's not enough help at the VA to help process them. And the guys don't want to be put on drugs and get neutralized in their brain, just be even all the time. And so all of our guys that come to us, the VA will call us and say, these are your guys. They don't like us. They don't trust us. They'll probably trust you. And so we say, send them. And we say, what's your deal? You a druggie, you a liar, you this, you that, what's your stuff, And they'll look at us and we'll say, we'll put you in a group with another vet. And you can't lie to a vet. Drinkers can't lie to drinkers and dopers can't lie to dopers. And vets in a small group being led by a veteran who's got it through help, you can't lie to a vet. And you get in that group and the guys will call you out and say, you still are lying. You won't deal with your issues. And your wife wishes you would, your kid wishes you would. When are you going to act right and grow up? And part of our challenge is that so many of these men are taught to, like it was said by Sean, to hold that line and hold that stuff and be a stud and be tough and never show weakness. But like you said, when that dam breaks, when it breaks, it breaks. And there's oftentimes no way for someone to handle the amount of depression or anger or hurt that he's carrying in his head. And so my friend Mark, I see him, we do a 50-hour nonstop thing. We're coaching together with all these Navy SEAL kids and Rangers. And he goes home and, 2 days later, the dam breaks and he takes his mountain bike that night and rides up above San Diego at sunset, blows head off. And we go, Mark? And he wasn't a drinker, and he wasn't a partier. He was quiet, normal, helping everybody. But when his dam broke, it broke. Boom. And so we need many groups like the Courage Foundation across the country to help men and women process stuff. And the only ones they really trust are other veterans. And so we get a therapist and a veteran. We get them into what we call boat crews. These are a lot of Navy guys, and we put them in this group, and they get therapy. And they're in a Zoom meeting or on site every week, at least for a year. Accountability. What are you doing? You're a liar. Tell us the truth. Blah blah blah. Let's work on your stuff. Why are you dodging the bullet? Why don't you grow up? Why don't you be a hero to your kids and get your act together? And vets talk to vets, and we see change. And so all that's built up from when my dad had me. My dad had that drunk court. After these guys would go to drunk court about midnight, they'd come driving by our house and they say, "Hey, Judge." And I'd say in the morning, "Dad, who was that yelling, 'Hey, Judge'?" Well, that was those guys, who were still drunk, and they appreciate the judge making an effort. But, what's a once a week accountability group in court from 6 to 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night going to do all week long? My dad used to say, these are all our guys, but they're screwed up. And somebody's got to find a way to help them. So when Crampton went ahead and blew his head off, I just went, I can do more. I must do more. This is a national epidemic, tragic epidemic of people coming home and don't know how to process what they saw. And I'm happy to be a part of that. And I'm in the fourth quarter of my life. And so how do you want to go out? And I want to go out in a number of different arenas, trying to bring help and awareness, and then fade out for the next generation to work on their stuff, and just generation after generation. The people in the movie that you saw, I'm the Only American, those are rowers. So rowers in Europe are as big as football is here, and they have rowing clubs. So they row university, and then afterwards they go to a club and they row. And some of the rowing clubs, like in Holland, have 300, 400 people, and they row till they're 80. So when you say to somebody, "What do you do?" "I'm a rower." Well, they're, from 15 to 80 or something. They just row like other people play golf. So these are all rowers. The captain that you saw was a London police harbor patrol SWAT retiree. She was a kick-ass, hardcore, nice-looking blonde who was SWAT for 20 years, working terrorist stuff in London Harbor. The girl, the blonde that said, "I'm doing this adventure," she was a Copenhagen SWAT police officer. That sweet blonde was a Copenhagen police officer, and she wanted to get away from police work. And so the best way for her to get away and space out was to go out on the ocean for 42 days, to get away from social media and just think. The one girl had a hat on. She was young. She was French, and she had never lived on land in her life. She was raised on a boat, and she's lived on boats, and she sailed the Atlantic by the time she was 14. And this was her third Atlantic crossing at 22. And she's just weird. And she wanted to be topless the whole time. And we said, "Don't be topless, please." I appreciate you being French, but if you could just use some deodorant and put your top back on, it was like, and she goes, "No, I'm French. Hope you guys don't mind." We said, "No." And we had every kind of person in the world on this thing. And under that sleep deprivation, they all morphed into creatures that they weren't the nice people that you drank wine with before you went on the thing. They begin to freak out and throw things at each other, much less call each other names. And we told one guy, if he didn't shut up, we're going to throw him overboard and say he drowned somewhere out there. And all the guys said to the guy, "If you don't shut your effing mouth, praise the Lord, you're done and you're overboard." And he looked, said, "You wouldn't do that." And we all looked, said, "Say one more thing, you're out of here." And so he shut up for 20 days. And he didn't say a word, because we said, "We don't need your negativity. We don't need your critical sarcasm. Shut up. If you don't have anything good to say, be a teammate, or we don't like you." So it was a reality TV program as that sleep deprivation got into everyone's mind. So when I was listening to John yesterday, and the power of positivity and the way you think, I mentioned this before, I got quieter and quieter because I wanted to think about my thinking. I wanted to make sure that I stayed in the game as a mental resiliency coach. I wanted to stay in the game, be in control of my thoughts, and not allow my emotions to dictate. So as we go into Christmas, what, you said to me, what do you want to leave with the group, Scott? And I said, my thought for this is veteran suicide, but also, and I'm hoping all of you will give $1, go to that barcode or something, give $1 or $5, give something. That'd be really nice. I don't care what you give, just enter into the partnership of, this is terrible. I can do something. But mental health going into Christmas time, that's when we have the most suicides in the country. And between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's Eve, more people kill themselves than the whole rest of the year combined. And so my thing is to help people think better and to help people work on their emotional control and to teach them skills, whether they're vets or they're whatever, and say, you can think better, you can handle this, you can make it, and let us teach you how to process your stuff so you don't think that suicide, negativity, and hopelessness is your only option. And I've buried over 50 guys as a senior pastor, but I've married over 100 on the other end too. So I've been in the game, and my heart is to help people go through their trauma and make it through their trauma and let them know it's possible, that suicide's not the only option for you. But when that dam breaks, if you're not close by or they don't trust you, it just snaps. And the other military guys could probably, on this call, Resume could probably say a lot about all that, and maybe much more than me. So if any of you want to ask any questions, I'm glad I did it. People say, would you do it again? Yeah, if you paid me. If you get me a good team and you make it worth the while, blah, it's easy to do. It's hard. It's just hard work. If you don't mind hard work, you just go do hard work, and it's not that big of a deal. But it's a challenge to put yourself out there. But I'm glad I did it for veteran suicide and for Mark Crampton. And as you saw, his son is still not whole and still going to therapy because he misses his dad. And he's a Hollywood producer. And so he's 38 years old. He's still crying, missing his dad. And just think of all the other kids, like that kid in the gym that talked to me, that just live with that. You wonder why we have so much alcoholism and drug addiction and brokenness and anger and battery and all that stuff, because people just don't know how to process their stuff. Go ahead.
I'm gonna get the ball rolling here. On behalf of your community, we're making $1,000 donation.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're amazing. How Sandy puts up with you, I have no idea. She is truly a saint. Sandy is a saint.
Sandy's a saint.
But you're the epitome of an outlier. You have chosen to live an extraordinary life, and you've lived the most extraordinary life that I've ever witnessed. So,
well,
you're an amazing friend. I'll any questions for Robert, just jump in or raise your hand or just go off mute and feel free to ask him a question.
Don't all be quiet.
I have a quick question, Robert.
Yes, sir.
And I'm like speechless. It's hard to like even say anything after that amazing documentary and just all your great stories. I love talking to you as you know, and just love the conversations. Your life story. I would echo what Scott said. Like your life story to me is remarkable because you come from someone that's experienced a lot of pain in your life and a lot of people that didn't, like you told me you didn't believe in yourself at a very young age. But like one quote that I always remember, like, even if like when I'm running like a hard race or something like that, I think about, you said like, I didn't have faith in me. I had faith in others' faith in me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that you give that to the veterans, and you can't help everyone, and there's veterans, but it's not, but you try. And that's what I take away. It's like, it's worth it to try. And I guess, I don't know if this is a question, but it's kind of like, what do you think about, and maybe what can we all do to give faith in someone? What are the things that you do that vets appreciate to show that you have faith in them, because I feel like so many people in your life, like you were telling me stories of the swimming coach and the coaches in your life that gave you faith and made you believe that you were more than the the person that you were, and the guy just drinking and doing drugs and all that in your life. So, and then you became what you became. So I guess a roundabout way to say, what advice do you have for us when we're confronted with someone that we feel like is dealing with, like what you say, snakes in our head? We all have snakes in our head,
I just know the truth is that either you deal with your issues or your issues in time will deal with you. And so when I look at somebody, I just had 85 football players on the football team. I see Teg there, and I'm the crew guys in the morning. I look at them and I say, why are you a liar? You didn't turn in your homework, and you're not trying to be the best student athlete here. Why even come back next year? Why don't you come back when you mature, grow up, and want to get your act together? And they go, gosh, you're hard. I said, no, that's what the coach told me when I was here. And so, I was giving him the stuff that young guys needed from older men who talk the truth to young guys and say, grow up. And I try to look at them. There was a guy that called me today. He owes me $7,000, and I did a bunch of speaking and things for him. They never paid me. And he just said to me, it's been 2.5 years. And I said, I'm just letting you know, I have a choice to call you a liar and a thief, or I'm choosing to believe in you. And I'm going to choose the high road and believe that you're a good man and an honorable man, and that you are someday going to pay me the money you owe me. Not that I need it right now or need it, but for your soul, you need to make the wrongs in your life right. And I want to be part of that celebration when you get those wrongs made right. I want to celebrate with you that you went through the tough stuff and you made it. And he said, thanks, I'll get back to you. And so I know that when we believe in people who don't have faith in themselves, or they don't know how to believe in themselves, there's many books written on the power of one. And the power of one is that in all the negativity around someone, they find that one person believes in them, speaks life into them, and they latch onto that grandmother or that coach or that, foster parent, and they just believe what that guy says because that was the only positive person in their life, and they just grab onto it. They hold on, it changes their life. And so I have reason to be skeptical to the person begging on the corner, like, you want to give them the $10, and she's been there for 2 years now, or he's been there, what am I going to think? What am I choosing to believe? And as John said yesterday, I'm choosing the positive every day. When I have things screaming in my head, be real, it's the negative. And because people believe the positive when I was a screw up, and I latched onto them and they changed my life, I'm going to do that with others, even when I'm staring in the face of, this is stupid, call a spade a spade. But they expect you to give them the negative, and you look at them as best you can and say, I'm just going to love you. I'm going to believe in you. I'm for you. And if you ever want to talk and work on your issues, come talk to me. And I get calls from Australia, Austria, people call me and say, can I talk? I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who to process with. Marriage, autistic children. I had this lawyer about 4 days ago. He's a really wealthy lawyer above San Diego. And he was in my SEALFIT stuff. So we've been through, hours of beat downs and stuff. And he called me crying on the phone. And he said to me, hey, Robert. And I said, what's up? And he goes, and he couldn't talk. He was so full of tears. I said, take a breath. Come on, dude, get a breath, get a grip, cry as much as you want, but get a breath and talk to me. And he goes, I got cancer. I said, when'd you find out? He said, yesterday. I just went to the doctor and went in for a normal yearly checkup, and they did blood work, and I got cancer. And he just starts wailing at 60 years old on the phone. And I said, cry all you want, I'm here. When you're done, let's talk. So he just cried. And then he sniffled, and wiped his. What do I do? I said, you're all good. Let's work on this. And we just process together. And I call him the next day. How you doing? Next day. By the end of the week, hey, all's good, making it, blah, blah, blah. And he got his act together. But things overwhelm people. There's things that just happen to people that overwhelm them. I had mentioned to some of you guys, I was sexually abused in 7th grade and 8th grade. One in Boy Scouts by the older Boy Scouts who were initiating me, and one family friend. And I remember we put these wounds way back on our head, and then we locked the key like Mark Crampton, and we never opened that area of pain because we don't know how to process it. And when Mark's opened up, committed suicide. And I get it, where people lock in forgetfulness, I'll never speak of it again, abuse, family, this and that. And if you be the one to say, no matter how you are, I believe in you and you can make it, and we'll find a way. I'm telling you, people will just lock on in disbelief. Could this really be true? I mean, could it happen to me? And I say, sure, but you got to do the work. And if you don't want to do the work, you're going to do something stupid. But if you're willing to do the work, you can get healed and you can get your act together and you can get your life back. But don't lie to me. Go make a decision. Talk to me when you want to do the work to get yourself out of that hole, because we can do that. And many, just say 4 years, 5 years later, hey, look, I said, yeah, you got her back, and your kids actually like you again. And they go, yeah, it's unbelievable. But I say, you did the work, dude. You just tackled those issues. Deal with your stuff, or your stuff deals with you. Thanks for the question, Alex.
I think Paul has a question, and then Scott Heathman.
Oh man, first I just want to say, Scott, thank you so much. And RHO, that documentary was so inspiring. It hit home for me because I created a live show on LinkedIn that I launched on my 26th birthday. It was 8 years after I wanted to commit suicide. And I grew up with my grandparents, and it was old school back then. So emotions weren't really something that we were ever taught to deal with. It was like a sign of weakness. And I found for me that vulnerability was really the ultimate superpower, or so I thought, until I found self-awareness. My question for you is, what do you think is that thing that takes people from the next step to awareness to self-awareness? Because I believe that a lot of people have awareness, but they don't have the self-awareness. So that's my question. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, sure. I think awareness is, I recognize I got stuff, I got issues. Self-awareness is where I'm looking at it from a distance and seeing myself as a project. And I see that if I take myself on, this project can change, versus I'm so enmeshed in it, I can't do anything. This thing is me. I would say to some guys sometimes, I mean, I had a TV show that went into 5 prisons. And so for 20 years, I visited medium and max prisons every month. And I'd go into prisons and I'd say, hey, what's up? What'd you do? I'm murder one. I said, sweet. How's it going? And you talk to these guys and I'd say, you still act like that's you. And they go, this is who I am. And I say, that's who you want to be. But when are you going to, if I have a baby, I had 5 babies, and I changed diapers for 12 straight years. So I know good hot poop, and I know how to wipe that butt, and I know how to change diapers. And it's really cute when a baby has a diaper. I mean, you laugh, you kiss them, and they're sweet, and their poop is sweet smelling, and you don't give a rip, or they throw up on your shoulder, after you burp them, and you had your suit on, and you got that, this thing wasn't there, and it all slides down your chest, and you're in public. It's my baby. I love it. But when you see a 25-year-old with a diaper on, 30-year-old with a diaper on, and it's full of crap, and you go, hey, dude, when are you going to change your diaper? And they go, what diaper? That crap that you're holding on to that you think is you, it's not you. It's the stuff of your life that is accumulated, but that isn't really you. You can be different unless you want to wear that diaper and have that red rash and have an attitude for the rest of your life. And they said, no one's ever said that. And I say, you want to change your diaper? You want to get it together, stop having a red bottom? You know, how? Well, then you pull the awareness into self-awareness. If you do this, and we walk on these steps, you can become a project versus it's just you. And then they say, never thought of it like that. I thought it's just me. And I say, yeah, it's you, but it isn't really you. It's who you choose to be. If you want to change, let's change. And then we do a process of, okay, where do I start? I send them to Kathy Lever. I send them to people that help people process their stuff who are better at it than me. I can pop that bottle up, but I need to hand it to an expert. You know, you're process these people for me. You know, I'm a layman. Anyway, you can do that with folks once they see that it's not them, it's their stuff. And when they choose, oh, this is the life I've developed for myself, but this is not who I naturally am unless I want to stay in that thing. And we all know this stuff, just basics. And so, you know, I said, you all heard the story, but I left my one son in jail for 6 months. And he got his 3rd DUI. And I just said, he said, Dad, get me out of jail. I said, no, stay there and rot. You know, you deserve to be there. You earned that spot. Go make those new friends. Hang out, you know, with losers like you. And I was waiting to hear something because he thought that it was him. It was all enmeshed in his anger and his stuff. And so I waited and waited. In the 6th month, he finally sent me a white card and said, hey, Dad, I'm messed up. I said, the little card back to him, tell me 25 ways because I got 30. And so I wanted to hear something in his spirit that he was aware that it wasn't just him born this way. It's the thing he's chosen, and now he wants to pull out of it and become not just aware, but self-aware and work on his stuff. And so, you know, he's cleaning us over today, 13 years, and he's an airline pilot.
Wow.
And so, but he did the hard work, you know, breathing in a tube for 5 straight years and going to court for 5 straight years. That was blood tested every Friday and blah, blah, blah. But he wanted out. The light turned on and he wanted to make the change. And that's what all of us are looking for, that light in someone's eyes that says, okay, help me. I'm open. What do I do? It seems daunting, but okay, you're in. You like these stories. I'm doing a men's event in Medford, Oregon, and all these guys are there. So this guy's in the very back with gray hair, and he just stares at me for an hour and a half with his arms like this. I'll take questions. Anyway, all these men come up and say, hey, da, 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 nice to hear you, you know, glad you're here speaking, blah, blah, blah. And he's standing by himself at the very end. And I said to him, come here. And so he's the last one in the whole room. I said, what are you doing back there? Why are you just staring at me? The whole time I talk to you, stare at me. He goes, because I'm listening to you. I said, well, what are you thinking? He said, you're a pretty good speaker. And I went, well, thank you very much. So what? What's going on in your head? And he goes, I think you got me today. And I said, so what did I get? I mean, talk. And he said, he looked at me eye to eye, and he stuck his hand in his jeans pocket, and he looked me in the eye, wouldn't look at his jeans pocket. And then he stuck out his hand and went like this, which meant that I was supposed to go like this with my hand. So I stick my hand out, and he stares at me, and he goes, blink. And I go, can I look at it? And he goes, yeah, look at it. So I pull this bracelet, and I look at this bracelet. It looks like a bracelet full of popcorn. But it's not popcorn. It's people's teeth. And I say to him, are these all the guys that you killed? He said, they killed my friends. And when I killed them, I took a tooth out of every one of them, put them in my pocket. And those son of a bitches, those gooks, blah, blah, blah. And he's 60 years old, Ted Offensive, 69. And I said, you put this in your pocket like a rosary and thumb that sucker every day? He goes, yeah. Never forget. Marines, Huya, Semper Fi. I said, you're sick. And he goes, you know, I listened to you today. I said, so what do you think? And he goes, I'm giving this to you. I'm done. I'm going to forgive and I'm going to move on. And I said, so you've carried this thing now for 40 some years in your pocket, thumbing that thing every day, reminding yourself of your hatred, your bitterness, and your anger from the Tet Offensive. He goes, I've been through 3 wives over this thing. I said, you want it? He said, today you broke through and I'm going to change. You know, you never know, all of you watching me, your words can make a difference in someone's life. You just never know that you're that person on that day. But if you just look at humanity as just a mess and they're just a mass, if you don't think about their eyes and what they're doing, you get calloused because there's so much pain and so much hurt, and so much, stuff out there. And that's why John yesterday said he takes those walks and he starts with gratitude and he starts with praise and thanksgiving and he gets his mind right so that the creativity can flow versus waking up with that negativity, that hardness every day. Because I can get really hard. I mean, I put enough guys in body bags as a PJ that I knew I needed to get out of the military because I was hard. And by the time I started treating people like pieces of meat, because I just couldn't emotionally engage. It was just too hard. It hurt too much. Like an ambulance driver, it's just too hard to engage day after day with trauma. I just knew if I'm going to stay sane, I got to get away from putting people in body bags. And so I had to make a change. I had to figure out, what am I going to do? I went to somebody and said, I'm screwed up. I used to be clean, normal, and now I'm screwed up. And I'm good at body bagging, and I'm good at not thinking about it, and I'm good about this and that. And they said, yeah, you're damaged goods. You need to figure out some way to get your heart, your head right. And I started working on my stuff. All of you relate to some of these stories, and it's just how we choose to look at people. That's why I love jails. I love prisons. How screwed up are you? I got it. Good. How's it going for you? You want to change? Or are you still going to lie to yourself and say it's the cops and the police and the judge's fault? And every once in a while, they just pop and say, you're right. I'm about ready to process now. I say, great. It's only been 22 years. Welcome back. Let's go to work on your stuff. And veterans sometimes make it back. Sometimes they don't. Talking a lot. Any other questions out there?
Amazing. One more with Scott Heathman.
Hey, Robert. So good to see you.
Good to see you too, Scott.
Thanks for not pushing that guy over.
Your nice wife sitting next to you too.
This is my wife, Mary. So yes, she never joins me on these calls. So maybe just a couple things to point out, just for our Outlier family in general. I mean, we have 2 gifts here as far as in Robert, and then also Kristen Christie, who just joined. She lost her husband to suicide. He was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and she is her and the work that she has done is directly responsible for the 988 crisis number that you can now call. So she was a big part of establishing that across the United States. And she just recently joined, and Robert, I put a message out to her and you, and I bugged her to get back to you as soon as she can. And I know she's travels quite a bit, so she's assured me she's going to reach out to you and give you a big bear hug at some point. So
wonderful. Love to meet her and talk to her.
Yeah. One thing though for the group. So when I was in command of the Air Force Base, and Mary certainly remembers the suicide, folks who died by suicide at the base. And we had 3 total. The last one was a spouse, a woman, and they literally just moved to the base and from Salt Lake City, and they found her dead in the bathroom. She hung herself. And there was alcohol involved, and there are some things that you do generally see, things that you've talked about, Robert. But what's interesting is there's probably 3 times the amount of just ideations or attempts. Okay, and that's the ones that we knew about on a small base of about 14,000 people. I can't imagine how many go unchecked, unnoticed, that you don't ever know about. And so people often think about, well, suicide prevention is about getting it to 0. Okay, that's a good number to shoot for, but that's if you know and you pick up on signals. And oftentimes you don't. And great people just choose to take their life, unfortunately. And there is work to also be done on postvention. I would call a woman like Kristen in. I had her speak at Scott Air Force Base and talk about her message. She has an incredible message that she's delivered all over the Air Force and in the Department of Defense. But there was another doctor that I would always call on postvention because it was very interesting. And she would always, and every time I called her, she goes, "What's going on, Scott? What can I do to help?" I said, I just had a suicide on the base. She's like, "Okay, here's the things you need to be talking about with your team." Because generally these things tend to come in 2s and 3s.
Mhm.
And like clockwork, for the 3 that we had 9 more attempts after those first 3. And it just is so strange how human behavior can even see an event like that and then think it is okay that I'm going to go through with this. So if you do have folks within your organizations, maybe somebody does die by suicide, that is the time to hunker down with everybody and get everybody together and not separate, not go to your own corner and just leave
Correct.
it be, because
Correct.
there is more damage potentially out there that could be coming to an organization's way. So I just want to share that because it's just it's really strange, but it makes a lot of sense when you talk to a postvention specialist like that and why these things do occur. So
That's so true. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, 2s and 3s is pretty common. Let me just say that it's great to have you all here and you're still here. And I'm honored that you'd stay. There are other nicer topics to talk about, lighter things going into the holiday season to talk about. But this is the one that I grabbed onto when my friend, went home and shot himself. And I'm glad that you're aware of this. You don't have to think on it all the time, but just be aware that there are these people that are struggling. And other than that, I hope that you have a great Christmas season and things go well and you're able to look at people and encourage some folks and say something nice to a waitress or say something nice to a gas station person or, store clerk and just be a light. And people be amazed how they'll remember your name when you're just a little light in a dark place. And so I appreciate you, Scott, allowing me to be a part of this. And I look forward to seeing some of you at the retreat. Some of you are going to go to Nicaragua, have a great time. I've been to Nicaragua a lot. I've been on the phone, on the computer with Peter now, maybe 5, 6, 8 times, because he and I did stuff down there in Nicaragua at the same time. And so we were already reminiscing about some of the things that were happening when we were both in Nicaragua in 85 and 90 and 95. So have a great time there. And Scott, thank you again for providing a community like this where people get to talk. Meg, for supporting him, that people get to process. And you don't need to hear guys like me, but there's a lot of folks that have giftings in this group that can be an asset to the group. And it's a great group. And if you want to talk to me or call me or email me or something, again, my number is 949-542-9600. Be happy to process with you this holiday season or whatever and be your friend. So thanks, Scott.
Robert, you are the best. We could all live to a very ripe old age and never meet another human being like RHO. I mean, there's nobody like him. If you want to spend 4 days with him, come to Rhode Island. And all I can promise is you will come back a changed person. It will be very interesting. And you will probably hear lots and lots of really great stories. The $1,000 that we donated tonight, honestly, guys, is a drop in the bucket. It doesn't even, start to make a dent in the issue that Robert is trying to wrestle through with the Courage Foundation. So I would, as Robert said, if it's $1, if it's $10, whatever, collectively we have a lot more power. And I'm glad to do a little part. But encourage everybody that to please watch that documentary. Because I mean it's tremendous. And
just continue
Robert,
to pray that the son, Sean's son, as you can see, can get through that. He's going to be 40, 41, and he's still a mess when he thinks about his dad this Christmas.
Yep.
And so you think he looks pretty together. He lifts and works out and runs business and stuff, and yet peel back the scab, and there's this little boy, and there's lots of people like that. So
I've got one quick question before we go, if we've got a second.
Yeah,
Robert,
sure.
can you tell us how many veterans that the Courage Foundation is currently working with, and do you have a goal on how many you would like to work with?
We were doing 200 prior to the pandemic, and that's paying for the therapist, flying them in, flying the wives in, feeding them, putting them up in a hotel, processing small groups. And then the pandemic hit and our funding, just dried up. So we just had an event at Green Bay. The Green Bay Packers just honored the Courage Foundation at halftime. I think it was on Thursday Night Football when Love had one of his better games. And so the word's getting back out. We do a lot with special ops community. And so they're their own breed of deniers. And so, this year, if we can do 100 to 150 in nonstop small groups, that would be a big year for us, just finance wise, and rebuild what we had prior to the pandemic.
Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Amazing documentary. I only cried twice.
What's awkward. What's awkward is that I cry every time, and I just go, man, this thing just keeps eating at me, And I know that that's probably a spot that God's put in my heart to say, hey, milk that thing. I want you to be involved in that.
Yep. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Great to see you guys. I appreciate. I know there's a million things you could be doing, on a Wednesday night. But this is important, and it's important that we, collectively we have so much power, and that's why I love this community, and that's why I love, new members like Lindsay who joined us today.
Hey, that's good.
And Sal who joined last week, and just all these amazing folks, and Cheryl, who's a recent new member. So we've got a great group. Help each other, and everybody. I will see you guys. I think Tuesday we've got Josh Perry. So join us.
Scott, let me say one last thing. Hey, Teg, it's great to see you. I saw you yesterday. I thank you for all your work you do with all those kids up there in the Northeast, and you're a champ. Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Looking forward to reconnecting.
Yeah, good enough.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks. Good to see you at the retreat. All right, Joe.
Yeah, and some of you may want to come to the Southern California, get together, and maybe we'll meet out there too.
Yeah, we've got LA when
March 21st.
March 21st, we'll be in LA with RHO. So if you want to come hang out with us, please do. All right, guys, have a great night. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Or actually, we have some power out. We have a power hour on Friday with Dr. Amy Loden. Correct, Kathy?
At 3 p.m.
Perfect. See you guys.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.